And now, do a quick introduction. I'm Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That is the website, www.growbecauseyouknow.com. And welcome to the Morning Mindset. The entire purpose of this program is to prepare for the day. And the best way I know of to prepare for the day is to read something that gets my mind in the proper mindset. And I started this program so that those who wanted to do the same and share it with me could get theirs started on the right track. So let's get going. I'll bring up my copy of the book and begin reading and be right back. So at the bottom of page 37, it begins. If you do not see great riches in your imagination, you will never see them in your bank balance. Never in the history of America has there been so great an opportunity for practical dreamers as now exists. The 6-year economic collapse has reduced all men substantially to the same level. A new race is about to be run. The stakes represent huge fortunes, which will be accumulated within the next 10 years. The rules of the race have changed because we now live in a changed world that definitely favors the masses, those who had but little or no opportunity to win under the conditions existing during the Depression, when fear paralyzed growth and development. We who are in this race for riches should be encouraged to know that this changed world in which we live is demanding new ideas, new ways of doing things, new leaders, new inventions, new methods of teaching, new methods of marketing, new books, new literature, new features for the radio, new ideas for moving pictures. Back of all this demand for new and better things, there is one quality which one must possess to win, and that is definiteness of purpose, the knowledge of what one wants, and a burning desire to possess it. The business depression marked the death of one age and the birth of another. This changed world requires practical dreamers who can and will put their dreams into action. The practical dreamers have always been and always will be the pattern makers of civilization. We who desire to accumulate riches should remember the real leaders of the world always have been men who harnessed and put into practical use the intangible, unseen forces of unborn opportunity and have converted those forces, or impulses of thought, into skyscrapers, cities, factories, airplanes, automobiles, and every form of convenience that makes life more pleasant. Tolerance and an open mind for are practical necessities of the dreamer today. Those who are afraid of new ideas are doomed before they start. Never has there been a time more favorable to pioneers than the present. True, there is no wild and woolly West to be conquered, as in the days of the covered wagon. But there is a vast business, financial, and industrial world to be remolded and redirected along new and better lines. In planning to acquire your share of the riches, let no one influence you to scorn the dreamer. To win the big stakes in this changed world, you must catch the spirit of the great pioneers of the past, whose dreams have given to civilization all that it has of value, the spirit which serves as the lifeblood of our own country, your opportunity and mine to develop and market our talents. Let us not forget, Columbus dreamed of an unknown world, staked his life on the existence of such a world, and discovered it. Copernicus, the great astronomer, dreamed of a multiplicity of worlds and revealed them. No one denounced him as impractical after he had triumphed. Instead, the world worshipped at his shrine, thus proving once more that success requires no apologies, failure permits no alibis. If the thing you wish to do is right and you believe in it, go ahead and do it. Put your dream across and never mind what they say if you meet with temporary defeat, for they, perhaps, do not know that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. Henry Ford, poor and uneducated, dreamed of a horseless carriage, went to work with what tools he possessed without waiting for opportunity to favor him, and now evidence of his dream belts the entire earth. He has put more wheels into operation than any man who ever lived because he was not afraid to back his dreams. Thomas Edison dreamed of a lamp that could be operated by electricity. began where he stood to put his dream into action, and despite more than 10,000 failures, he stood by that dream until he made it a physical reality. Practical dreamers do not quit. Wayland dreamed of a chain of cigar stores, transformed his dream into action, and now the United Cigar Stores occupy the best corners in America. Lincoln dreamed of freedom for the black slaves, put his dream into action, and barely missed living to see a united North and South translate his dream into reality. The Wright brothers dreamed of a machine that would fly through the air. Now one may see evidence all over the world that they dreamed soundly. Marconi dreamed of a system for harnessing the intangible forces of the ether. Evidence that he did not dream in vain may be found in every wireless and radio in the world. Moreover, Marconi's dream brought the humblest cabin and the most stately manor house side by side. It made the people of every nation on earth backdoor neighbors. It gave the President of the United States a medium by which he may talk to all the people of America at one time and on short notice. It may surprise you to know that Marconi's friends had him taken into custody and examined in a psychopathic hospital when he announced he had discovered a principle through which he could send messages through the air without the aid of wires or other direct physical means of communication. The dreamers of today fare better. The world has become accustomed to new discoveries. Nay, it has shown a willingness to reward the dreamer who gives the world a new idea. The greatest achievement was, at first and for a time, but a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn. The bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of reality. Awake, arise, and assert yourself, you dreamers of the world. Your star is now in the ascendancy. The World Depression brought the opportunity you have been waiting for. It taught people humility, tolerance, and open-mindedness. The world is filled with an abundance of opportunity which the dreamers of the past never knew. A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. Dreams are not born of indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition. The world no longer scoffs at the dreamer, nor calls him impractical. If you think it does, take a trip to Tennessee and witness what a dreamer president has done in the way of harnessing and using the great water power of America. A score of years ago, such a dream would have seemed like madness. You have been disappointed. You have undergone defeat during the Depression. You have felt the great heart within you crushed until it bled. Take courage, for these experiences have tempered the spiritual metal of which you are made. They are assets of incomparable value. Remember, too, that all who succeed in life get off to a bad start and pass through many heartbreaking struggles before they arrive. The turning point in the lives of those who succeed usually comes at the moment of some crisis through which they are introduced to their other selves. John Bunyan wrote The Pilgrim's Progress, which is among the finest of all English literature, after he had been confined in prison and sorely punished because of his views which slept within his brain, because of his views on the subject of religion. O. Henry discovered the genius which slept within his brain after he had met with great misfortune and was confined in a prison cell in Columbus, Ohio, being forced through misfortune to become acquainted with his other self and to use his imagination. He discovered himself to be a great author instead of a miserable criminal and outcast. Strange and varied are the ways of life, and stranger still are the ways of infinite intelligence, through which men are sometimes forced to undergo all sorts of punishment before discovering their own brains and their own capacity to create useful ideas through imagination. Edison, the world's greatest inventor and scientist, was a tramp telegraph operator. He failed innumerable times before he was driven finally to the discovery of the genius which slept within his brain. Charles Dickens began by pasting labels on blacking pots. The tragedy of his first love penetrated the depths of his soul and converted him into one of the world's truly great authors. That tragedy produced first David Copperfield, then a succession of other works that made this a richer and better world for all who read his books. Disappointment over love affairs generally has the effect of driving men to drink and women to ruin. And this because most people never learn the art of transmuting their strongest emotions into dreams of a constructive nature. Helen Keller became deaf, dumb, and blind shortly after birth. Despite her greatest misfortune, she has written her name indelibly in the pages of the history of the great. Her entire life has served as evidence that no one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality. Robert Burns was an illiterate country lad. He was cursed by poverty and grew up to be a drunkard in the bargain. The world was made better for his having lived because he clothed beautiful thoughts in poetry, and therefore plucked a thorn and planted a rose in its place. Booker T. Washington was born in slavery, handicapped by race and color. Because he was tolerant, had an open mind at all times on all subjects, and was a dreamer, he left his impress for good on an entire race. Beethoven was deaf, Milton was blind, but their names will last as long as time permits because they dreamed and translated their dreams into organized thought. Before passing to the next chapter, kindle anew in your mind the fire of hope, faith, courage, and tolerance. If you have these states of mind and a working knowledge of the principles described, all else that you need will come to you when you are ready for it. Let Emerson state the thought in these words: every proverb, every book, every byword that belongs to thee for aid and comfort shall surely come home through open or winding passages. Every friend whom not thy fantastic will, but the great and tender soul in thee craveth, shall lock thee in his embrace. There is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until he believes he can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief, not mere hope or wish. Open-mindedness is essential for belief. Closed minds do not inspire faith, courage, and belief. Remember, no more effort is required to aim high in life, to demand abundance and prosperity, than is required to accept misery and poverty. A great poet has correctly stated this universal truth through these lines. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid. I am going to stop there. And I'm going to invite whomever wants to hit that seat to come on in, because this is another powerful piece of the book. I'm reminded of earlier discussions that John Birch participated in that included the lie that lies within belief, that if we lie to ourselves, if we convince that we can convince ourselves of anything, so can a lie be good? That was an interesting conversation. What struck you? What sticks out in your mind? You know, it doesn't have to be perfect what you share, but it does have to be true. How's that? That which you have gotten from this. I got to tell you, one of the things that struck me was how appropriate the words are for today. The appropriateness of us coming out of the financial issues that we are, which are everything that he's describing. We are in a new age. We are in an age going beyond information age. Hi, Edwin. Welcome.
Good morning, Charlie. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you, my friend.
And good morning, everyone. Happy Monday.
So this reading was pretty powerful. Well, I'm not sure that you were able to hear any of it?
I was. Actually, I heard most of it.
Good, because I would love your thoughts about it.
Well, one of the things that resonate a lot with me on what you read today was, like, be careful what you wish for. If you wish for something, you have to be ready to receive it. And from personal experience, like, I always tell people this. One of my wishes when I was younger, I always used to see people how they used to have these jobs and they used to travel all the time. And I thought that was cool, because you get to travel all the time. And I wish that. I'm like, I want to have a job like that. I want to have a business where I travel all the time. And that wish came true. My business, it was growing nationally, and I had to travel, to different places. And at the beginning, I was liking it and I was loving it because that's what I have wished for. But with time, it became tiring and it became something I didn't want. And especially when I got married and my wife was pregnant, that's the moment I'm like, oh, I no longer want to wish anymore. And so one of those things that you have to be ready for what you wish for, because sometimes you might get it. You're always gonna get what you wish for if you really try hard and you go for it, but it might not be exactly what you want.
I love that. Because what resonated with me was being ready for what I wish for. That it was all well and good that I wanted to own my own business, but I wasn't ready to do it until almost 8 years ago, 7.5 years ago. Right. Until that point, even then, I wasn't of my own devices really ready, meaning that it took some outside forces and encouragement and what have you, but I was ready enough that I went ahead and started. It was time. It was time. And I wouldn't have been able to do that, honestly, up until June of 2008. Wouldn't have happened. Well, it didn't happen. And other things that I've wanted, and I'm trying to stay away from the term wish, because I still believe if wishes were horses, we'd all have a ride. Wish it's a meaningless word to me unless done in poetry. Dream has more meaning for me now, having read Think and Grow Rich and a few other books and having discussions like this elsewhere. So dream is a different word, because it's the stepping stone to figuring out what I truly desire. And then what am I willing to do to have that happen? And what struck me on that being ready, and what's happening now in my mind, is that part of the moving forward and having the dream and having the desire to come true, have it happen, is the preparation for myself to be ready for when it happens. That was like a big, huge light bulb moment for me. I know chances are good everybody else already got that. But for me, it was, again, the journey to get to someplace is the prepping myself to be ready for when it happens.
All right.
Yeah. Hey, got an empty seat. Anybody want to join us? I'm reminded of instances where people think that they want millions and millions of dollars, and then they win the lottery, and they weren't ready for it. They had no idea how to handle the money. They didn't know who to go to learn how to handle the money. They didn't handle it well, and in many, many cases, they were broke again after a number of years because they didn't know what to do with it. They weren't ready to receive it. That to me is an example.
Yeah, you definitely have to be ready. To touch again on a personal note on that. Back in 2002, when I got out of the military, that was one of the things that I started my own business, and one of my biggest goals and dreams was, to become a millionaire, and that's what I really wanted. So I actually started working towards it, and within a few years, I reached that goal. But talking about you have to be ready, I wasn't ready to have that much money because I never been around that much money in my life. So within a few years after that, I made a lot of money, and I lost it all. I went back to exactly how I started. And it was a big learning experience because a lot of people used to give me advice, but being a young guy and thinking that that I know it all, like most of the young kids are nowadays. I just keep doing what I wanted to do, and I didn't follow any advice or anything like that. And within a few years after that, I lost everything. The market, helped to that as well.
Oh, Edwin's driving.
But I went,
and as we all know, Edwin, you'll be back.
It was, there you are. It was a very humbling experience because at that time. Okay. It was a very humbling experience because at that moment I realized that I wasn't ready for all the success and all the money. So what I did is I prepared myself. I knew how to get there again. And the second time around, when I received it and I got to the level that I was in again, I knew how to maintain it because I was ready the second time around.
Love that. Love that. Thank you for sharing that, Edwin, because one of the things that has changed in me over the past 2 years or so, not only was the beginnings of changing direction for my business to accommodate and suit the clients that were asking for it, which in turn is really what I'm supposed to be doing, was preparing me for what's happening this year. I wouldn't, and it's on my way to the riches. Okay, so I have my dollar amount goal and I have my major definite purpose in mind and I have the desire, and it's getting more and more strong as I share it with others, but also as I read it aloud. And I know John Birch will be so proud of me. I have it on a 3x5 card. And I have read it twice yesterday, once today. It will be read again later today. Cementing that this is my purpose, this is my goal, this is what I'm working towards. And I'm not being distracted by the obsession. And that was my biggest fear. So what that tells me is that I am now ready for this to happen. Because up until, and you guys heard this, a few of you who have been on with me, Sean and John and Mike. Mike's not here this morning. Edwin, you heard this from me. My biggest stumbling block before page 37 in these discussions all last week has been my concern and my fear that I would become so obsessed with that dollar amount that it would become the number one priority and would be before my current priorities, which are God, family, and myself. Those are my 3 priorities, right? And by putting in place the simple actions and doing it just a little bit differently, as recommended by somebody who's done it themselves. And that includes, I will share once again, my little 3x5 card. Doing it just a little bit differently. I'm not feeling that obsession that I was concerned about. So again, it brings back what we just read, that I am preparing myself. I am preparing myself for that which is going to come. I'm more confident in my ability to handle the journey to get there. And I'm more confident in my ability to receive the riches that are going to be coming my way. How's that? There, I said it. Omar, welcome.
Oh, that was so profound. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you. So what are your thoughts on the reading, or what Edwin and I have shared to this point?
Excellent. I appreciate it. I just wanted to jump in and say that, I feel the same way. What's going on is that I just wanted to touch base with you. This is the second time I saw you guys, and, I just wanted to say that, I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 19. I'm currently 62 years old. I live here in the city of Detroit, and I'm in a suburb of Highland Park right now. But
I know exactly where you are. I know Detroit.
Oh, you know about Highland Park?
Well, I know I've got family all around Detroit, from Dearborn all the way up to north into Bay City. But yes, and into Lathrop Village and Livonia and Redford and Belleville. I could go on. So I'm not in there, but I've got family there.
Where are you at now?
I'm in southern Indiana, near Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
But we go up to Detroit about once a year.
Yeah. I love Michigan. I spent some time there in South Carolina with my
Michigan's my favorite state.
Yeah, Michigan. I missed the winter, but I just wanted to say that, when I was 19 years old, I read Think and Grow Rich, and that changed my life. Then when I read that book, I was so excited, so on fire. Because, it just resonated with me, and I really believed in the truth of it. And, I decided then that I wasn't never going to work for anybody else, that I wanted to be and apply those principles in my life. And even though I haven't made $1 million yet, I have enjoyed the freedom of working for myself, with my tree business and my other endeavors and stuff like that, right?
Right.
It just set me free, and so it's not, it wasn't really about the money, but it was my freedom. I had my freedom, and the things that I've ascertained through my life, it was worth my freedom, even though some of my friends, they drove the big cars and, and the big houses. I'm like, they're not free. They're caught up in that, but anyway, my biggest thing that, that was in the book is like, aligning yourself with like-minded people, and I really thought that was the crux of the book. Let me find other people who can think like this, who can read this book and who can do these things. And once we have this mastermind alliance, we can do anything. And, I haven't yet found anyone, well, yeah, but except you, and teaching this course here, and, the second book that I read that was also impactful was Erroneous Zones by Wayne Dyer. And that was also a liberating book. And so this is a little tribute to Wayne. I got to say, because, Wayne was friends with Abraham, and that he's on his next biggest adventure now. And, he would meet with, Derry and everybody. And, he's all, excited about his next journey. And the new books that he wrote, I haven't even got to. I read, he did the thing on I Am. And all this is part, to me, of Think and Grow Rich, or the up-to-date version of it. When I look at that, it all goes back to that. But when I listen to Abraham, so I know that Jerry Hicks was a part or taught the principles of Think and Grow Rich, and for, like Wayne, I actually met him, he's from Detroit as well. Have you met Wayne Dyer before? Did you meet him?
No, and I've seen one or two of his videos. That's it. So,
okay.
But what you're saying, though, is that Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich was the springboard for others who got something great from it and then put into their own words, their own experiences, and a different perspective to have the same principles in our lives. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, what I find interesting is you read the book at 19 and it changed you. I read the book and it didn't make any sense to me at all. That tells you the kind of prison I had in my own mind. It made no sense to me. And I would have told you I was the most open-minded person ever. I'm non-judgmental. You can be whomever you want to be, which of course was BS. But, I had this, I'm not the woman I used to be. So we're all thankful for that. Having said that, having read it by myself, it just wasn't impactful. What I learned is that by hearing somebody else read it while I read it, hear the aloud with the auditory, with my visual, that started to have a change. And then I realized just a few weeks ago that this book actually is a textbook. And why don't I treat it as such? Hence the beginnings of the Morning Mindset Show. The idea being that the way I work is left to my own thoughts. I'm not going to go very far. So I thought, well, let's put it out here and hear what other people say, get my own thoughts out loud, and get feedback and grow from that. So thank you. Thank you, everyone who is here and helping and aiding in my growth, because I've had some really good stuff happening the past week or so. And it looks like Omar is going to freeze just because that's what happens on Blab with live streaming. So, Edwin, what do you think of what Omar was sharing?
I'm sorry, I missed a lot of it because
you flipped out.
I lost connection for a second. Yes.
Well, I'm going to ask Omar if you're still here. No, you've been dropped. Please come back. Would love to hear more of what you have to share because I thought it was pretty darn terrific. Anybody else? Again, we have 2 open seats. Feel free. Don. Any minute now, maybe. So as soon as Don comes in, and it looks like Omar's back. Omar, go ahead and come back in. We've got the other seat is open. Yes. Thank you.
Sorry, I refresh.
No,
Hey
we
guys,
have a
good
full
morning.
house. Don is back. Hey,
Full
Don, how
house
are
now.
you this morning?
What's going on, Charlene? I'm doing well. How are you?
I am, if I were any better, it'd have to be twins.
There you go. Very
Doing darn
nice.
good this
Very
morning.
nice.
Loving that it's a Monday and loving that you all are joining me. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, no, thanks for the reading. I thought I'd let the cobwebs get out. You know, it's early out here on the West Coast. Have a cup of coffee and let the reading sink in.
Mm-hmm.
Something that resonated from the reading this morning, I wrote it down here. Success, first of all, the timing of this, like you were talking about, compared to the depression and then through any and all financial and life challenges we've all faced since 06, 07, right, with the financial industry. Absolutely incredible, the timing with reading this section of Think and Grow Rich, knowing it was written, 6 years after the Depression.
Uh-huh.
I mean, couldn't be more timely for all of us. Something he said, success requires no apologies. Failure permits no alibis, right? I think the more successful we become, the more tendencies we have to come up with apologies to those who aren't coming along for the ride, number one. And number two, the more excuses we can come up with as to why not to continue on the journey, right? And I think that's very, 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 I just wrote it down. I think I'm going to get that as my first tattoo in my life. Quite frankly, I'm just not sure where. It just resonated as.
I love where the conversations go.
Never mind. Forget that. That was
perfectly okay. I love it. Go.
little insight into my mind. But I mean, the success requires no apologies. I don't know if anybody else, and this is really the question I have as you, Charlene, are growing your business. How are people around you responding to your growth?
Quite honestly, I'm surrounded by people who can't wait to see me succeed. It has been my own mind that has stopped me. Literally. I had an exercise I shall share with others. The exercise was this is the firing letter to the committee in my head of every
Yes.
person I could name that sat around the conference table whenever I had an idea I was ready to move forward with. Literally, the committee was in session, and these people throughout my life had somehow gotten rent-free in my head and gotten together and pretty much told me it just wasn't going to happen. And yet, in the past year, since I've started my business, I am surrounded by people who are successful, who are moving forward, who are trying to drag me along, who are, you're awesome, Charlene. I can't believe you do this stuff. This is fantastic. Please keep doing. And then I'd stop because the committee would come in. So my own battle was to fire that committee. And a daily reading of this firing letter has had tremendous impact. It literally is free-flowing to whom it may concern, and then I named every one of them and told them that they no longer have a job and they can't have that seat because it's being replaced by, and then the names of everybody who is supporting me now.
Outstanding.
Now, having said that, when I had success, well, I'm not going to say this is going to be directly related to the way I view money. I grew up exposed to wealth. And the wealth I was exposed to was by fabulous people, givers, generous, they're hard workers, intelligent, sharing, protective, because when you have wealth, you have to be protective or people are going to take advantage of you and their anger and envy will cause you harm. What I was never taught was I was taught the value of the dollar, but I was never taught how to earn it and keep it. I wasn't taught the mechanics of it. So I aspired to be emotionally, mentally spiritually like these people. I just never attached the money to it because I was exposed. I moved around a lot. I stopped counting the moves at 27, and I've moved more than that. Okay. So what would happen is, especially in small towns, I would be exposed to people who didn't understand what wealth meant. And I got the bombardment and the bullying of, you're a rich kid, you go to private school, you must be this, that, and the other. So what it ended up happening is I would make excuses for having access. That's where I'm coming around to what you were saying, Don, and why it struck me. That's why it's in my own head. I made excuses. Because I'm really sorry. I wish I could give you the cash, but it's not mine to give. It's really awful that we have this much money. And then we don't talk about it. And then I wouldn't talk about it at all. Right. Because I wasn't surrounded by people who could handle it. They couldn't handle that I traveled to Europe as a kid. That was a rite of passage, let's send her to Germany and to Europe and see what she does for a couple months, the private schools, the best that could be afforded within what we had. So the bombardment was, I was the person to hate because I represented everything that they couldn't have. I know this today, but I couldn't accept it with an open heart and simply explain to them how to do it themselves because I didn't know how to do it. So all that's here I am now. Again, a very different woman, different way of thinking. I'm open to go ahead and hit me with it, because I know where it's coming from. It's coming from your own fear and your own anger, and that is not my fault.
Sure.
That is not my fault. All right. If it were, I'd fix it. Can't fix it. So let's move on. You don't want to fix it. You need to move on. So that's where I am with it today.
Wow. Good for you. Isn't that a life lesson on at least as adults, surrounding ourselves with like-minded individuals versus people that are going to tear us down and pull us back and not be along for the ride and not be happy for our success or our place in life.
Absolutely.
Good for you. Good for you. That's another beautiful part of this group right here, Charlene. So one more time, thanks for putting this together.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So you continue. Bet. You continue with your, I don't want to know where it's going to be tattooed, but it had such an impact on you.
Well, it did, I think.
Because I could make excuses for success, but I'm not quite sure failure doesn't have an alibi. I'd like you to finish your thoughts on that.
Let's see. Failure doesn't permit alibis. How do I want to say this? It's easy in life to come up with reasons why not. Right? I mean, we're surrounded by reasons, whether it's a friend that says, "Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You're going to be fine." When it's something that we really want to accomplish. Right? I think it's real easy to get in that groove of, it's okay. When you and I just absolutely want it without doubt, with the passion, whatever that thing is. Alibis don't allow success, right? If you're gonna, I heard it like this once, you're either going to have success or you're going to have excuses, but you're not going to have both together. And that's what resonated with me, right? You can't have the success that you want in your life if we're going to come up with alibis as to why not. And I think that's a very easy trap for us to get into.
Nice.
Right. And I also, like Omar, when I was young, I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 20. I was exposed to Jim Rohn when I was very young. And then like you, Charlene, I wasn't ready for it. It was nice to be exposed to it and the way of thinking. But I was able to find the excuses more than the reasons why to be successful. And not only, or not until I had children and got married and grew up mentally, I think was when things were able to be turned around with the thoughts of we can have excuses or success, but not both at the same time.
I love that. I love that. And the thought that came to me, and I had to type it out so that I wouldn't forget it because I already did. So I'm looking over to see what I typed, is failure is accepted and learned from, not excused. And that's what I think that's what I'm hearing you say. So I failed. So the excuse is that I may not have tried hard enough, but that's okay. I may not have put forth enough monetary investment, but that's okay. That's what I'm hearing you say, Don.
Sure.
That because I don't know how many people I'm surrounded by. I'm not surrounded. I can come in contact on a regular basis with people who settle for mediocrity, and that's the way I always viewed it. Was them saying, "Well, you're okay where you are. There's no reason to go any further.
Sure.
Why try that hard?" Or even better, the one that got me in this area, we call it a $12 an hour town. I can't tell you. Oh,
wow.
yeah. I'm looking at them and I say, "Excuse me. You think it's a settling kind of thing. Just be glad with what you have."
Oh, that's the bar, right?
Just be glad with what you have. $12 an hour and you can support yourself. If you go for $15 an hour, you can support the family. And it's true. Honestly, in the county I live in, that we can do just fine on that amount, but you don't do anything and you have no freedom. I loved what Omar had said about having the freedom. That's what financial freedom is. It's not that having so much I can't count it. It is that my husband and I have the freedom to do things, to share things, to be a part of things, to leave the house, so when I moved here and it was a battle. It was a battle. That was before I got into business and surrounded myself with the people that who think differently. I found them, and I attracted them. Sure. But that's one of the things. That's one of the things to fall into that says you don't think they're anchors if everybody is just like you, right?
That's okay. Right. That's the norm. It's the expected, right? And when you're surrounding with a $12 an hour area mentality, right? Everybody says, here's your bar. This is what's expected. You're okay here. And it really takes conversations like this, the reading, and more than that, the action behind it. As outstanding as the title of Think and Grow Rich is, and the book's phenomenal, we have to remember, you and I have to go work our face off to make all this happen.
Yes.
Right? If we go back to The Secret, remember that movie? I don't know if you ever saw that.
No.
But they ask us to sit there and think about everything that we want and zen out and forget to tell us to go work your ass off, to really make this happen. And I think talking about it now, looking back at the younger me, I think it was nice to get into the mindset of positivity and personal growth. And then I was surrounded by a few people succeeding, but a lot more people not, and not really going for it, right? With everything I had, that was a real big missing part to my career in the beginning, at least, or my success in life. And the older I get, the realize I can think about it. And that's great. That's where it starts, but that's not where it ends.
Absolutely.
Right. If I'm not meeting people like Charlene on a regular basis, or people that I can help or learn from and contribute to, or contribute from, then I'm just zenning out and thinking about it. And it's a nice story in my head.
Exactly. And that's why I love this, is that we've got the give and take. We all have something to share. We all have a story somewhere, little bits and long bits, we all have the experiences that can help someone else to see it a little differently, sometimes it comes down to, and this was in the reading, sometimes it is as simple as by sharing what we're talking about now, somebody else is getting a little bit of hope. They're getting a little confirmation of their faith. They're getting a little confirmation they're on the right track, I'm not where I want to be, but dang it, I'm getting myself ready to be where I want to be. That's where I am now. I'm realizing I am on the journey of being ready to have what's coming my way. I wasn't ready when I first started the journey of identifying my definite purpose, had the goal, had the desire, outlined the steps how I'm going to get there. And then because of staying committee in my head, I allowed them to tell me that, well, I'm going to only take this step halfway. And then I'm going to go on with the other step, but I only had the half step up here. Now I'm going to come down here and I'm working 3 times as hard because I only did a half step up here. That to me is part of the failure, is that I'm not doing that which needs to be done on a regular basis consistently. And that is part of preparing myself to be ready for what's coming. It's so obvious to me today that I wasn't ready. That's why it's not here now. That's why it's simply not in front of me at this moment. It's in me to do. It's in me to have. I am preparing myself. So when it happens, I know what to do with the money. Omar made the comment or Edwin made the comment. He made his millions and then suddenly it was gone because he didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
I've already got that part taken care of. Been talking to the accountant.
Nice.
What do I do?
Step one,
What do I do when I make my first $20,000 sale? What do I do with that cash? Literally, what do I do? Yes, guy with yoga pants. You invest, but where and how? I need that outlined. I need to know that it's like there are some things that I will say no to now, and it will be automatic because I made that decision years ago. And Starbucks is one of them. I tried it and said, not worth the money and it's not a coffee for me. But I made that decision. Therefore, when somebody says, let's meet at Starbucks, I say no. And there are things in my business I say no to because I made the decision early on of what needs to, I already know the answer. I don't have to think about it. Some of those decisions are already made. And that's where I'm coming from with this, is that if I know what to do with it, I am readying myself to have it. Drop it in my hands right now. And some of it will be frittered away that ought not be frittered away. It just will be. That's right. Because I don't have a definite plan in place of what to do with it. That's how I work. And I've learned that. So to prepare myself, talk to the accountant. So if anybody who wants to pay me $20,000 for my services right now, I know what to do with it. Come on.
Bring it on.
I'm ready for it now.
Shirley, we were talking last week about the morning routine, right? The journaling and the affirmations, and you know what to do to prepare for your day now. So bring on the day.
That's it.
Right? It's the same thing. And once you're prepared for the good, the bad, the ugly of the day, you're conditioned in your mind and your body and your spirit to handle that. Bring it on. Let's go. Exactly. And you're doing the same thing financially too. And that's so important to have it laid out and know exactly definitive purpose, going back to the reading, right? Having that definitive purpose, the $20,000 check, 20% goes there, 30% goes there, and I'm traveling with that or whatever it is. Good for you.
Yes, Guy Yoga. I swear to God, that's the funniest ID. The visual is fantastic. Guy Yoga Pants.
I don't know if I want to see that visual, Guy, but I want to know more about it. Right? I'm interested, but I don't know if I want to see it.
He commented earlier that he was perfectly okay with the extra 50 pounds. And I am. It's the 25 on top of that I'm not good with. So we're working on getting rid of that so that I can get rid of the rest of it. But
that was either that or just making the comments of, I'm okay with, we were talking about the mediocrity, right? I'm okay with that, surrounding myself with people that's what I got out of her statement, at least when we were talking about just being okay with being okay. Being sarcastic. Yeah. Thanks, Guy. Yeah,
I knew where he was going when he made the comment earlier.
Yes.
That was awesome.
In a $12 an hour city. Well, those are going back to affirmations or incantations. We were talking about this last week also. That's an affirmation, right? We really have to be careful. I talk a lot with my clients about the words we use for ourselves, right? It all starts with how we talk to ourselves. And being in a $12 an hour city, that's interesting, Charlene. I've never heard of an entire community behind something.
The other part of it is that, it's enough. It's enough. Why would you want more? And I'm like, so what I have to realize.
Do you want my list? I'll tell you.
But I'm just kidding. I could do that. But honestly, what happens is, and what I have to realize that those who think like this have never gone further than about 100 miles outside the city radius. So that's about an hour, 2 hours away. They might have gone to Indianapolis. They might have gone to Lexington. They might have gone to, maybe have gone to Evansville or Terre Haute. But they really haven't
My
traveled
mom's
anywhere.
from Terre Haute.
I'm sorry.
My mom's from Terre Haute. Yeah.
They haven't traveled. I've traveled the world. I've been exposed to real poverty. I have difficulty with some of what we call poverty here because of that. I've been exposed to it. I've seen it. I've lived a few things that others haven't. I've met diverse cultures. Where I've just sat quietly because I don't know the rules. And so I'm going to watch you and I'm going to be appreciative of your culture because I don't get it, but I don't have to. I've been where I've been the teacher and I've been where I've been the student. And, you just pick it, and I'm willing to be there and I'm willing to learn from or help with or something like that. And that mentality, what I call the $12 an hour mentality, literally, that's what they said. So I'm job hunting, right? I'm going from an engineering position, all right? It is, 12 bucks was the donut. But, I'm going from an engineering position and they're saying that when we have jobs over here right now, they're paying 12 bucks an hour. And I said, well, I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. I thank you for thinking of me. I'm looking for something in this range. Well, 12 bucks an hour is just fine. You should be happy with doing it. You should be able to support yourself on that. Well, we can because we keep our expenses so low, but I just want more. Well, why would you want more? That's enough. See, that's the mentality that happens. So I think it's because they've not exposed themselves to anything beyond the circle of their comfort that they're in. That's all right. It is. I have been since infancy. I've been flying since I was 9 months old. It's just so a whole different way of thinking in that realm. So that's why it was such a shocker to me, such a shock. And then the battle that has to happen to adjust and get myself out of that. So, and I did. And everybody here is a part of it, a part of keeping certain that it's going to continue.
One more reason why we do this.
It is. I told everybody from the very beginning it's selfish. You all need to know it's all about me. You do know that, right?
I heard that loud and clear, by the way, Charlene. Yes, and that's why I'm still here. Awesome. Nothing wrong with that as long as you're real with it, right?
I can't get more real. It's like I told Sean. I let him know my thoughts. I said, here you go, buddy. Yeah, go ahead. Just keep talking.
That's perfect.
He's awesome. Sean is beyond terrific.
Just because we're sharing.
Beautiful.
Because Mom said so. That's right. Yes.
That is fabulous. Yeah, if I can't laugh at myself, holy moly, I can't handle it when people laugh at me. I learned that one too when I think I was in my late 20s when I learned that one because I got laughed at a lot. And I finally learned that if I laugh at myself first, beat you to it.
That's it. Amen.
All right. So we need to start winding down.
I have to get out and get on the exercise road. So I'm going to jump mobile and I'll finish up there.
Okay.
Charlie. Awesome.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye-bye. Edwin, we've just lost you, buddy. What a shame. And what a great joy to have you join me on today's show. And everybody, Guy Yoga Pants, I would love to know what your real name is. Yes, we would be fun to work with, wouldn't we? Think about that and come up with some reason what we can do. Not reason why, but what we could do, Guy Yoga Pants. And I'm always up for hearing opportunities. Dan, you joined a little late, but I thank you for being here. Of course, Don, thank you so much. Dawn Van Dyke, I wish you'd have jumped in the seat maybe next time. Ken Turner, great to have you with us. Katrina Smith. Sean was here earlier. I hope some of you had an opportunity to say hey to him. I do not know how to pronounce your name. Deborah. That's your last name. Okay, Deborah. That firing letter is pretty darn cool. That was offered to me by a coach. And it has made a huge difference when I did it daily. And I thought once would be enough. Not for me. So thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Looks like Sean has moved on to do great things elsewhere, which I'm glad of. And Laura Joseph. Oh, yes, Detroit rocks. Love Detroit. Love that area. And I believe I've gotten everybody. I do not. Oh, Omar, what fantastic things you shared with us. I'm so glad you were here. It was a pleasure having you on the show. So let's do this again tomorrow, shall we? 8 o'clock Eastern Time. I will put in the title shortly, the pages I'll be reading, so you can read ahead, read along, and join us for the discussion. So let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. So until next time, thanks for joining me, and have an absolutely terrific